Hello, and thank you for joining us. The U.S. economy shrank during the first 3 months of 2025. The Commerce Department reported Wednesday that U.S. gross domestic product declined at an annual rate of 0.3% from January to March. The report comes at a time of increasing economic uncertainty amid President Trump's sweeping tariffs on foreign imports. And as business leaders, economists, and the chair of the Federal Reserve warn we could see inflation as a result of those policies. At the White House Wednesday, President Trump held a more than 2-hour cabinet meeting where top administration officials spoke at length about their own accomplishments. Despite the GDP report coming 101 days into his second term, President Trump was quick to blame his predecessor.
You probably saw some numbers today, and I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is the quarterly numbers, and we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy.
We have team coverage on the story. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady is here with me in Studio 57, and CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is at the White House. Kelly, let's start with you. Can you put this report into context for us?
So this is not great. This is the first time in 3 years that we have actually seen a drop in the U.S. economy, U.S. economic growth. And only in the past 10 years, there's only been 3 times before where we have seen negative quarters of GDP.
3 times.
Yeah, exactly. And that was COVID, right? The thing, though, is there were some pieces of this where you can take heart and we can dig into that. But this wasn't entirely bad news when you look at some of those silver linings. But, Lindsay, it certainly wasn't good because negative 0.3% growth. The past couple of years, you have seen 2 to 3% growth each quarter.
How much are tariffs a part of the equation?
Big part of the equation. So how GDP is calculated is it looks at exports, imports, government spending, consumer spending. Imports, okay? Companies, consumers bringing in goods into this country from foreign countries. That surged over 40% this past quarter. Why? People were getting those goods in ahead of the tariff deadline. And so yeah, we saw a huge spike in investment in the domestic economy. We saw consumer spending, but the drag, the negative part of GDP that ended up coming out in the headline number, that was driven by tariffs. What I will note, though, is strip out the tariffs, the imports, the exports, all of that volatility, the underlying economy, what we call core GDP, that actually did grow 3%. Now, it's very hard to strip out all the tariff noise because that's really what's on everyone's mind. But that was my silver lining, that at least outside of the imports, which could be a one-time hit, the economy was still doing okay.
You said on everyone's mind. In your experience, do indicators like this typically drive decisions of businesses and consumers?
Not only GDP, but it is part of this larger conversation where there's market volatility, there's price increases coming, consumers see, oh, GDP is going down, businesses look at that. And there was a piece of this today that measures consumer spending. Consumers are still spending, but it came in a little bit weaker. And so that can influence business decisions. Maybe I don't buy as much, maybe I don't invest as much, because the big fear is that those imports aside, if we see next quarter and quarters beyond consumers pull back, that's going to drive GDP lower again. And remember, 2 quarters consecutively of negative GDP growth indicates a recession.
You talked about a couple of silver lining data. We got a new inflation report today. What does that show?
Yeah, this was a bright spot. So PCE, this is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. That was 2.7% in February. It dropped to 2.3% in March. Prices are still rising. They're just rising at a slower rate, but we're getting closer to that 2% target. The wild card, though, of course, as the Fed and everyone is looking at this, is what's going to happen when the tariff prices kick in and you could see inflation rise.
Okay, Kelly O'Grady, thank you. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now. So, Ed, before we talk GDP, we are learning the U.S. and Ukraine have signed that long-awaited minerals deal. What do we know?
Yeah, Lindsay, good to see you. They're calling it the U.S.-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, which signals this is a broader economic agreement that will include, to some extent, extracting and benefiting economically from Ukraine's minerals, but also a broader economic agreement. Just going to read to you part of what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in a statement about this just a few minutes ago. He says this agreement signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration's committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. President Trump envisioned this partnership between the American people and the Ukrainian people to show both sides' commitment to lasting peace and prosperity in Ukraine. And to be clear, Secretary Bessent says, no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. This has been seen for essentially, well, the last 101 days as a key priority for this president as he tries to get Russia and Ukraine to end the conflict and to signal that he is committed to some kind of a peace deal. By doing it this way with an economic emphasis, it signals that he is trying to find a way for Ukraine to, in essence, pay back or allow the United States to benefit economically from its resources, while also signaling to Russia and to the rest of the world that the United States remains committed to Ukraine's sovereignty and security.
We will have much more on this with Charlie Daggett at the half hour. I do want to talk, though, about the GDP. The president saying this has nothing to do with tariffs. This is Biden overhanging a drag from the Biden economy. The actual data, though, as you and I both well know, shows the decrease in real GDP in the first quarter reflected that increase in imports that Kelly and I were just talking about. His own trade advisor, Peter Navarro, a stalwart proponent of these tariffs, admitted the same as well today. So what is the president's plan to grow GDP moving forward?
Well, he continues to suggest that the country has to be prepared for some short-term economic pain that ultimately will lead to broader prosperity. He has said it several times now in the last 48 hours that there will be short-term pain. The country's in a transition period and that great times are ahead. But what that data really starts to show, and as you dig into it, as Kelly was explaining, the idea that companies were sort of buying in advance to husband resources or supplies ahead of the anticipated tariffs shows you how disruptive this has been to the business community, to the stock market, to American purchasing. And the more it continues, the closer we get to implementation of these tariffs, the more nervous these companies and customers are going to remain. And it was striking today to listen to the president in that long cabinet meeting, 2 hours, 8 minutes, suggest that, you know, basic changes to American habits, for example, at one point suggesting, look, if you can't get toys from China, well, we'll make cheaper ones here in the United States. That's just economically impractical right now, as we've reported so frequently over the last several weeks. And even suggested at one point, look, if you can't get dolls for your children, well, maybe instead of having 30, you'll only have 2 or 3. It gives you some sense of where his head is at on this, and calling on the country to prepare for some changes that they may not be willing to make.
Are there any trade deals on the horizon?
They continue to suggest that they're getting close with India and South Korea, but nothing firm yet. Obviously, they want to be able to show that there's been work with major trading partners other than China as quickly as possible to build that momentum and to keep putting pressure on China with the 145% tariff still in place.
What else did you make of that 2-hour cabinet meeting?
It was striking, Lindsay, because it was reminiscent of the first term where you'd see these meetings where you basically go around the table and they'd all say something laudatory about them. And boy, did they get to do that today. Each and every individual at that table speaking at length about their perceived accomplishments so far, their successes, including Elon Musk, who he said is welcome to stay as long as he'd like. And that got applause from everybody in the room, which at least publicly signals they're still committed to his DOGE cost-cutting programs, even though it's been so disruptive at so many of these departments. And we've seen some modified plans for that implemented just in the last few days. But this White House has been very eager yesterday and today and the rest of this week. And the Ukraine announcement certainly helps to demonstrate they're doing things, they're getting it done, they're fulfilling the promises. And that meeting today certainly was designed to do that. Also, we've never seen the MAGA-style ball caps on the cabinet table quite like that before. But they were clearly being handed out by the president to his team.
Ed O'Keefe, thank you.